Hello, everyone. We'll just give everyone a few more minutes, well, a few seconds to join if they're still trickling in. Okay, it's 5:01. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, which is setting up customer-facing analytics with Metabase, why, when, and how. I'm Jess. I'm the Product Marketing Manager here at Metabase, and I'm your host for this session. And today we're joined by three Metabase embedding experts and panelists. We have Connor Dewey, who's our Product Manager, Luis Paolini, who's our Success Engineer, and Ben Vinay, our Product Engineer on the Growth team. Connor, if you could just take us to the agenda slide. We'll give you a quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. So first up, we've got Connor and Luis, who are going to run through what customer-facing analytics is and when you might need it, what's cool about it, and the various embedding types you can choose from. Next, they'll walk us through a demo of full app embedding with Metabase. And following the demo, Ben will show us how to get set up with embedded analytics with Metabase. And finally, we'll have some time for Q&A, so be sure to add your questions to the questions tab as we go, and we'll cover as many as we can at the end. And while we're talking housekeeping, we have a few other things to cover. We'd love to get your thoughts and comments as we go, so feel free to drop those in the chat tab at the bottom right of your screen. If you have a question, please use the question tab for that so that it doesn't get lost in the mix. For quick reactions, you can use the react button and share an emoji. And we'll have a few polls as we go through the session. We'll let you know when those are coming up, and we'd love to get your input. So make sure you have your say there. They'll be in the polls tab. And this call will be recorded for later and sent to you at the end. So if you need to duck out early, you can catch up later. And we'll also put it up on YouTube. So if you know someone who might get something out of this, feel free to share it with them then. And finally, we'll also be sharing our data stack survey in the chat during the session. So make sure you have your say there as well, so you're counted in our upcoming community report on that. Cool. So I think that gets us up to speed. I'll hand it over to Connor to take it from here.
Sweet. How's it going, everyone? So we can start off, ease into it, let you know where we're coming from with what is Metabase. So if you're not familiar, Metabase is a simple yet powerful analytics tool that makes it easy for everyone to dig into their data on their own, even your less techie teammates. So this is important to note, not only so you know who we are and where we're coming from, but also since we're coming at this from a perspective of self-serve analytics, the idea is that if you can empower others to get value out of their data without you being a blocker, then that's a good thing. Both internal users, or in this case, your customers, getting value out of data without necessarily needing to lean on you. That brings us to the crux of our conversation, which is customer-facing analytics. So customer-facing analytics is our term for giving your customers the right tools, in this case, charts and dashboards, so that they can understand their business and make better decisions. We'll dig into more about how to achieve this exactly shortly, but to avoid bearing the lead, you can see an example here of a Metabase embedding customer, incident.io, and how they're using Metabase embedding to provide their customers, in this case, with charts on the data around different incidents, the severity, the timing, so that then their customers can get more value out of their product and make decisions based on that data. Generally speaking, and kind of something that'll become more clear as we go through this talk, is that you'll want to focus on a solution for customer-facing analytics that hits on three things. So the first is you want to give your customers the ability to analyze their own data. The idea is that they can answer their questions. They're not pinging your data team or support team for tickets, trying to answer or trying to understand the product more. You can kind of let them explore and answer those questions on their own. Two is that your customers are only getting the data that they're authorized to see. So security, privacy, that's a big part of this. Luis will talk a little bit more about that and kind of how we achieve that. And then finally, you want to give your customers the ability to through sandboxing, but at the end of the day, the customer should only be seeing the data that is relevant to them. And 3 is providing a great user experience. So you can give your customers all the charts, the data that you want. If the experience sucks, then they're probably not going to use it, and they're still going to lean on a person to help them out. A big part of this is around white labeling and embedding the analytics into your product so it's a seamless experience. It feels like part of your product, and it's easy to use. So if you can hit on those 3 things, then there's a good chance you're on the right path. And with that, I'll pass it over to Luigi for more on kind of the spectrum of ways to actually achieve customer-facing analytics. Go ahead and stop sharing, and you can take it over.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation, Connor. Let me share my screen now. And you should be, yeah, there we go. All good? Do you all see my screen? Yeah, right? Cool. So let's see. I mean, Metabase has 3, I would say, flavors of embedding. And these 3, it's very important to know that they are not mutually exclusive. We have, I would say, a wide spectrum of solutions from our customers in which they deploy depending on their needs and depending on how they want to, or what do they want to offer to their customers, like different flavors of embedding. So you can have, I'm going to talk a little bit deeper about each of these cases, but you can have, let's say, full app embedding and sign embedding at the same time working on your platforms without much effort. So let's start with this beautiful example from UNESCO that you see on the right. Then I'm going to show the live page where they have this dashboard. Although it wasn't working a couple of minutes ago, this kind of things happen on live demos or live webinars. But I'm going to show just in a few minutes what this is. But this is the first example, which is the public, a public embedding, a public link. How does this work? Well, it's extremely simple. Once you go to Metabase, you need to enable the public links in the settings. And once that's done, only administrators inside Metabase will be able to, when there's a dashboard or when there's, when there's a dashboard, they will be able to click on a specific envelope, which is located on the top of the dashboard. They will get a link of the dashboard. It's going to be a fixed link. And with that link, you can share that if needed. And anyone, on the public internet or in an intranet will be able to see that dashboard. Or 2, you can put that dashboard, as you can imagine, inside the iframe source. So anywhere there's an iframe, you can literally put that dashboard as a source, and that dashboard will be shown in your website. So, this is really good in certain situations, right? Like, let's say that you have a static website, and we have lots of bloggers, like many people. At some point in the past, for example, we had like the Wall Street Bets Reddit community that were using Metabase with public links in order to show their different portfolios. So there are really lots and lots of examples around the internet of how people use public links to even share dashboards or embed those dashboards into their static websites. But if there's a limitation, and again, it's a public website because in the end it doesn't have any kind of security. Anyone that has that link that in fact doesn't expire, it's just a fixed link that you can share anywhere. Anyone that has that link can access that dashboard. So in case you want to have a website and a web application, and you want to show that specifically to your customers, this isn't a good solution, right? You will need the next type of embedding, which I'm going to show you in the next couple of minutes. A really good example, as I was mentioning before, of a public embedding is UNESCO. UNESCO, you might all know UNESCO. It's pretty important, which they are using Metabase to show statistics that they gather, in this case for the amount of journalists that were killed worldwide, across time. And they are using Metabase to put dashboards and questions in their website, which is not only public but also built on Drupal. So it's a PHP technology that they built everything in their content management system. And once they want to put an embedding, they just create an iframe inside that Drupal and just put the source. I'm pretty sure that, yeah, there we go. Again, this was not working. This was working. In fact, I took the screenshot yesterday that you see in the slide. But if you go to this website, it should be it will render the Metabase dashboards, as you will see, and you should be able to use the filters on top. This is live, going straight to the UNESCO database. I mean, it's not that it's static, or cached or like something. It's going straight and doing the queries live on the UNESCO database. I'm pretty sure that the database is down at this point in time. That's why the charts don't come back. But you will see what I was putting on the slide, which is there's a map and stuff. And if you can see also in this example, you have the possibilities of giving your users all the filtering that a native Metabase experience allows to. What is something that it won't work in public embeddings and also in sign embeddings, which is the next type of embedding that I'm going to show, is the possibilities of giving maybe your users drill down or drill through. So this will be at some point, we call it in Metabase inside, we call it sometimes static embedding, because although it's a live dashboard, we will go to the database and pull the data. You don't have the possibilities of clicking things and going deeper and diving into your data. It's just doing the queries, returning the data, and rendering on the web page. Following the public links and going further into another type of embedding that Metabase offers is this one, that it's signed embedding. So what is this case? The beautiful GIF that you see on the right, it's a use case that we have on our webpage, which is Pharos AI. It's an amazing company that pulls lots of data from different sources all together and gives companies the possibilities of analyzing different metrics about their engineering teams, like how many pull requests this person did during the time it's been on the company. How many bugs we have. Like, really interesting use case and really interesting company that pulls data all together and uses Metabase to show internally to different teams. How's everything going? The quality of the software, the productivity of the developers. Really, really interesting thing. It's one use case that you can go to that link and see in depth. And they use sign embedding, the same type of embedding that Connor was showing in the Incident.io picture that he had on his slides. And how does this specific embedding works? Well, what we do is we generate what we call signed URLs. This is a URL that, instead of being static and always the same, we generate dynamic links with an expiration that you can even pass programmatically. So how does this entire thing works? Well, basically, whenever there's whenever you need, or whenever your application needs to show an iframe, it will generate a link at that specific time with an expiration. And the most beautiful part of it is that you can even generate that link with specific filter combinations. So this will generate, dynamic link with a signature that you have that no one can change. It's a link with a signature. And when you tell to Metabase, hey, give me this URL, which is with encoded and with a JWT, Metabase will render you that dashboard with the link combination that you picked. And also you can send in that JWT locked parameters. So there's going to be a locking there that no one can change. So in this way, for example, the Pharos AI team can show to maybe different tenants inside their application just the data they need, and without the possibilities of the tenants jumping between each other. there's a really, really interesting use case in which you can show, and you can use Metabase to build a multi-tenanted analytic solution to any, in any application. This is really
Sorry,
good.
Luis. Can
Yeah.
I just ask you to zoom in a little bit on your screen? Just seeing in the chat that people are having a little bit of trouble reading it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let me try to, thank you for that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
It's
if anyone wants to comment in the chat as well, if you can see that a little bit.
really interesting. Let's see. The zoom of the browser doesn't work. It's gonna be a little bit complicated, but let me see how I can do. Maybe if I increase the font size, it's gonna be tough.
Okay, we'll also share the deck out after this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
But
yeah,
what I'm saying is the same thing that it's on the slides. Literally, it's a signed URL. No one can change it, and you'll be able to show different tenants just the data that belongs to them via a locked parameter that you pass on that URL. Again, really good solution, but there's also a problem with this type of embedding, which is, although you're giving these people the data they have, the embedding, this type of embedding, it's static, which is they're going to see just the data they have, but they won't be able to dive deeper on those charts or those dashboards. So that brings me to the last type of embedding that we have, which is the full app embedding solution. The mechanics are, I would say, pretty similar to what I've just explained in the sign embedding, but there's a difference because here we expose another endpoint. In the backend, there's another endpoint that is being called. And the difference is that in this specific embedding, the users that you have on your application get authenticated via single sign-on inside Metabase. They don't know what is going on. They see a seamless experience between your application and getting authenticated to Metabase. Also, in this type of experience, you can, if you have the full app embedding feature set, you will have also white labeling. So you will be able to take the styling of your application into Metabase. And the beauty of this type of embedding is that whenever you embed in full app embedded mode, users can also go and create their own questions, create their own dashboards, and maybe do drill down and drill through inside the data. So it's a really amazing way of providing to your users self-service analytics based on their data. This is also, there is also the possibility of doing, for example, row-level security. So users will get authenticated into Metabase, again, in a seamless experience inside your application, but they will also see just the data that belongs to them, just the rows that belong to them, without any pop-up or something that's coming saying you need to authenticate again. It's all a seamless experience inside your own application. A really good example, we have an NDA with this company, so I cannot provide the name, but it's one of our customers, which is an Israeli leader in browser security. They provide a browser to you, which is locked down, for big companies, very security conscious. It's a specific browser, and all the telemetry of that browser is sent to them. So once these companies want to see what is going on in that massive data that they gather from all the users, they use Metabase inside their application, and users, clients can go to that data set and start digging, what is going on, which are the threats that we had, that we faced, and so on and so forth. Really, really great example of how they use full app embedding in their solution. There's a link here that, again, we're going to show the slide. We're going to share the slide deck after the call. But if you want to use this demo, it's you just pull it and it will run in your computer very easily. You'll see this and you will be able to. I'm going to do some zoom here. You will be able to see this demo in where you click, and everything will be set up completely automatically for you. If you see here what happened, I did do nothing, just like run the demo and spin it up on my computer. It did a single sign-on between the parent application and Metabase, and the user properties got populated, and also you can pass security into this single sign-on. So the user will see just the database that belongs to them, the rows that belongs to them, the collections that belongs to them. So everything will be super secure inside this iframe that it's embedded on the application. And to finish this part of this section of the webinar, this is a fully working demo of full app embedding that it's public. You can go right now if you wish and play with it, which is embedding demo.metabase.com. I'm gonna go right now. It's a data set that we prepare, which is called Edumation, which is similar to maybe an educational institute, an educational company, in which you can play with it, by going and even switching. Sorry, I'm going to do some zooming in here, but you can even switch the user in which you're using, different teachers that might have, assigned different courses. And based on the user that you choose, you can, get into a data set, do drill down, do drill through. You can even get into, this instance as that user and see different reports, different models getting populated. It's a really, really interesting playground. So you can play with full app embedding right now to see how it looks and what's the full potential of the feature. Having said this, I'm gonna pass now the ball to Ben, so he can explain a little bit, the technical ins and outs of the solution. So Ben, all yours.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So let me share my screen. And you should be able to see everything. There you go. So we're going to start by talking about public embedding and how to do it. So public embedding, as Luis was saying, is very simple as an iframe. Basically, I'm sharing my whole screen because I'm going to navigate between the Edumation demo app and our instance that we use in the background to display some charts and everything. So as I was saying, public embedding is simple as an iframe. So for instance, if I go into our embedding demo instance for Edumation, you can see there's an average score chart. And if you go into the sharing section, the sharing modal, you can see you have public sharing and you have public embedding, which is basically an iframe. So if you take this code and if you put it simply into your HTML, it doesn't need to be React, it doesn't need to be anything, because you set up as your chart for public embedding, it will display as is. So you can control, like a normal iframe, the height, the width, and basically that's it. So you're building the source with the link to your instance /public / the path of what you want to show. So that's it for public embedding. It's very quick, as I said. So now let's talk about full app embedding. So full app embedding is a bit different because you need to authenticate. And as Luis was saying, you can create as well multiple users with different permissions. This users will belong to groups and all these sorts of things. So the first step before you start coding and putting some snippets into your code base is really to start by creating some users, some groups, and setting up your permission. Then the second step is going to go to your Metabase instance and get your JWT shared secret. So I've prepared something to show you. So first, you set up your groups, as I was saying, first step. For instance, for automation, we created a professors group. Then you set up the permission for your group. So you can see we've set up different access, so granular for data access, obviously. And then you can create your users. So in this case, we have lots of users. And if you go on the URL Louis was sharing earlier on, you can see we have 2 users. We have Mary Smith and Anna Johnson, which are 2 users with a kind of different level. Anyway, so I was saying the step 2 is to get, once you've set up the group users and permission, is to get your JWT shared secret. So to do this, you go into your embedding demo, I was about to say, your Metabase instance settings into embedding. Then you need to enable, obviously, the embedding, and then standalone embed, and you will get a JWT, an embedding secret key, and I'm going to hide it. So this key is kind of really secret. You need to keep it and not share it. But basically, you're going to use this key along with a package to generate a JSON Web Token. So you can use the JSON Web Token package. It's available on CDN or in NPM. It's up to you. And this is really the first part of the coding you're going to do in step 3. So you will get this package, your JWT shared secret, send a request, and get a JWT, a JSON Web Token. And with this JSON Web Token, you're going to have a second part of coding, which is step 4, basically the embedding. And we are back to basics with another iframe, and you're building a URL that you're going to pass to the iframe. So I know it might sound a bit abstract. So let's have a look at some coding. So let's go to full app embedding and let's have a look. So step 1, really group permission users, as I said. Step 2, get your JWT shared secrets. And then step 3, you're going to, so let me refresh quickly up. You're going to request your JSON Web Token using the JSON Web Token package, either CDN or from NPM. So it's really this snippet of code. So you pass the user you want to access your embedding and your shared secret. And then the 4th step is really building your iframe. So very similarly to the public embedding, you will get you will build from your instance URL, and this is the magic part where basically you authenticate using SSO and JWT. So you pass your JSON Web Token, and basically you return to what you want to display. So let me show you how it works. So for instance, if it wants to work. All right. So it's loading. All right, I'll come back to it. So let's have a quick recap. So full app embedding and JWT off. So basically you have the settings, which is the first step. Then you will get your JWT shared secret, then create your iframe and set your iframe. So yeah, those are the steps. The embedding is not showing for some reason. I'm sure I did something wrong. I will come back to it. So that's it for me. I think it's for you, Jess, now.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Ben. So we have quite a lot of questions to get through. But before we go to that, I just want to highlight that we've got a few polls in the poll tab. So you just need to click on that at the bottom right of your screen. Make sure you submit your vote, have your say. Okay, I'll go back to our first question. Okay, I'm not really sure this is a question. Public links parameters don't really work for self-hosted. Does that make sense?
I'll handle that. So public
Yeah.
links parameters don't work well for this. I mean, the product that you use in self-hosted is the exact same product that we have on the cloud. Like there's no difference in the product wise in the feature set. So if there's any issue about something that you're seeing that doesn't make sense, I always encourage everyone. I mean, if you're a paid customer right now, I've seen in the list that there are many customers, current customers of Metabase. The current customers can write to help@metabase.com. And if you're not a paid customer, you could go to Discourse. We have a Discourse forum you can go to, and just write to us, a message. We see all the messages in that forum. We'll be super happy to help you if you're seeing something that doesn't make sense in the product. But if you're doing an embedding with public, with a public embedding, you should be able to pass parameters to it. So I mean, they won't be locked as in the same way as you do, with sign embedding, but you should be able to filter everything, with parameters via the query string.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, next one. Will the breakout click-through functionality work somewhere in the future for public dashboards?
I can take this one. Yeah, so it's not currently on our roadmap. It's something that's been heavily requested in the past. The way we're thinking about it is that public dashboards are great when you know what your user or customer wants, whereas full app embedding, as Luis showed, is kind of our holy grail when it comes to self-serve and empowering users to explore on their own. I can actually briefly demo the kind of breakout functionality that was alluded to here so other people know. Let me share my screen. Okay. So yeah, so I'm on the full app embedding demo app here. And let's say I want to go into courses. I'm a professor. I want to see how my students are doing. I'm interested in algorithmic toolbox. So I can click through that. We'll pass parameters so that you get the right dashboard for that course. And I'm really interested in this kind of pass rate here. So this is where you can click in and drill down. You can break out by specific things. This is only available in full app embedding today. This is the type of kind of self-serve behavior that full app embedding is really centered around addressing. So I want to go in here and say, okay, category, let's see this by, I don't know, semester. And then you can see the pass rate for this course by semester. And you don't have to kind of mull around with SQL. It's all just clicks, and it's really easy to explore your data and get your answers that way. So yeah, that's essentially the breakout drill through functionality that was alluded to. And right now we're focused around making full app kind of the best it can be for self-serve and letting public serve those more static use cases.
Awesome, that was a great example. Before we go on with questions, I just want to point out as well that we have our data stack survey in the chat. So make sure you open that up in another tab and get your answers in for that as well so that you're part of our report. Okay, next question. How long does a signed embed link last, or is it single access only?
So
this
can okay.
Go ahead, Ben. Go ahead, please.
So so it has been blocked to 3 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. I think it's free, and after it will expire, so you need to sign in again. I want to share my screen and show quickly that basically on the so sharing my screen up. So in the embedding demo, that is working now because of a blocked cookie. But anyway, basically we had the it was blocked for security reason to 3 minutes. So you don't need to sign again if you're going through a drill through. That basically Connor just demonstrate, because the single sign-on will stay active, and you will stay authenticated. So basically, what we've done is when you to bypass this, when you click to another page, we are signing on again. So at the moment it's 3 minutes, but you can, you know, by certain ways which are not really hacks, you can still have it persistent, as I'm showing you.
Let me add just something on top of that, Ben, which is I believe that the person was asking for sign embedding, but I mean both in sign embeddings and in full app embeddings, that expiration of the JWT, it's I mean, although the default is, I believe, 3 minutes, as Ben said, you can change it. So you can make it like longer or just shorter, depending on your needs, right? And again, as that is generated on each request, you can like play with it depending on your needs, on your on both security standards, or depending on, you know, how you want to play with it. So you pass an expiration key in JSON when you're sending, when you're signing the JWT. There's a EXP key, and you can establish the duration of that of that JWT. So that will set the duration of that link.
Awesome. Okay, next one. Do filters get locked for each sign-in?
The filters. So let me be super specific. There is a sign-in to Metabase when there is only full app embedding. Okay, so when there's full app embedding, there you have a sign-in. Both public embeddings and sign embeddings, there is no sign-in whatsoever. So just in full app embedding, I mean, when there's a sign-in, in fact, you don't see any locked filters, because what you can do there is you can use another feature that I mentioned, which is row-level security, or you can see it in our documentation as sandboxing. That means that you configure maybe a user property from your identity provider or from your application that will pass transparently to Metabase, and you can use that user property to filter all the tables in your data warehouse. So any single time a user requests a table, or maybe does a question or a dashboard, Metabase will do, without the user noticing, you know, injecting a where clause in every single one of the queries of that user, basically sandboxing that user to their own specific data. So if there's a sign-in, if there's authentication, you can use sandboxing, row-level security, to just, you know, segment and put the user and show the user just the data. So you don't need locked filters in that specific situation.
Awesome. Can we internationalize Metabase dashboards, data and or metadata dashboard title, for example?
I'll go with that one as well. Right now, there is a feature that we haven't used, which is in the iframe source, you can pass a language a language variable in the query string, and that will only change the language of Metabase itself. I mean, what's being embedded, but it won't change the language of either you know, what you put maybe on the titles of the dashboard, or even the column names. It will just, you know, translate Metabase. There is a feature request in our backlog. It's not yet there, and I mean, Connor can maybe give us more info about that. But we know, and I've seen just maybe other question around about that. It's that keyword you pass in the iframe source will just translate Metabase, not the data and not the column names.
Cool. Was there anything you wanted to add to that, Connor?
No, like Luis said, locale is a feature we recently kind of shipped to try to improve localization. So it's definitely something that's on our mind. We'll have to follow up on the roadmap.
Cool. Next one is a question that I carried over from the chat. section. So if I install Metabase in EC2 instance in cloud, and if I want to share the dashboard to any external people, how can we do it?
I'll go with that one as well. You need to first expose that EC2 server to the world. So first it needs to be accessible over the internet. And the second thing is you can either like share it via the IP address or using a DNS name that you need to configure in Route 53, which is the DNS server of AWS. But the only prerequisite is that EC2 server needs to be exposed to the internet. And once you do that, it's just about going to settings, admin, enabling the public sharing, and then going to your dashboard and clicking on share on the top. And Metabase will allow you to build a public link that you can share to any of your users.
Cool. Man, we're getting more and more questions coming in. It's great. Keep them coming. The next one is, when using self-service, what are your recommendations regarding data model updates? Is there a good way to prevent all user-generated queries from breaking after the migration?
Ooh, tough one. Tough one, yeah. So this is a question that I always say you need to have a really good data lineage control, because let's say that you give your users the possibilities of writing SQL questions in Metabase, right? And then you'll literally allow them to write any question they want with SQL. And then maybe you drop a column, or maybe you change some data type or something in your data or in your models in the database. Queries will break. And that's not only in Metabase. If you use a SQL client or anything, they will break. So my recommendation there would be two things. The first one is try to identify or try to have a good data lineage solution. I mean, doesn't matter what it is. Could be as a spreadsheet, or it could be even a table in Metabase, or a table in your data warehouse. Like what I mean, it's this model needs these tables, or this model has these questions that are associated with it. Like, try to have that data lineage on one side. And the second thing is in Metabase will handle really, really well things that are done via the GUI builder. So Metabase has some intelligence that when there's something that changes on the source table and does a scan, it will be pretty intelligent to know what changed, and will try to do its best not to break things. And again, things that are built with the GUI builder, not with SQL questions. With SQL questions, Metabase can do nothing, because it's just fixed SQL that you write on it. So try to do as much as you can in GUI, and also if you do things in SQL questions, try to have a good data lineage solution to identify what can break.
Cool. Yeah, that's a really good distinction. One of the issues our customers are running into is that they find the overview of their collection very unstructured. When they're presented with 900 cards because they belong to 20 dashboards they have access to, is there any work done on that in the near future?
When I go with that one, Connor, I'll do some comments at the end.
Yeah, this is something that's very top of mind for us. Kind of as you empower people to be able to self-serve their data and answer their own questions, a natural kind of consequence of that, it can be lots of cruft and making it hard to navigate and find the important stuff. This is one of the things that's most top of mind for me and the product team right now. So hopefully we should have some solutions for you in the near future with that. One thing we're pulling on is the association of where different cards belong, whether they can belong to 20 dashboards, and how that's presented. So yeah, be on the lookout for more there. But unfortunately, no clear solves from me, unless Luis has a golden bullet for you.
This is something, again, I agree with Connor to what he said. Just gonna add just a few tips on that issue, which is right now there are some things that people don't know that they exist. We have a really, really interesting feature in Metabase, which is official collections and question moderation. In fact, these two features were brought to us, or were like suggested to us from one of our biggest. Literally, they have thousands of users in the same Metabase cluster. As you can imagine, like tens of thousands of questions and more, I mean, a few thousand dashboards. So what they suggested us, and they have built this before we put that into the product, is two things. One is that in Metabase, you can flag a collection as official. And when you create the collection, or when you edit the collection, that will put a badge next to the collection saying whatever it's in here is official, or the admin can mark that as official. And the second thing is the questions. So maybe there are users, maybe specific users, that they say, I calculated this metric, and this is like the only way of the official way of calculating the metric, or this table or this question is official. So they can flag that, and again, a badge will appear next to the question. So that is I would say a solution that comes both with features that we put into the product, and also with a good governance strategy inside your data stack. So I would tackle that in these two ways: governance and some of the features that we currently offer.
Yeah, it's a great call out. You might not be able to remove all of the noise, but you can at least create signal around the most important things.
Just piggybacking on that, we have an incoming question related to it. So David's asking, could you comment on the usage of models versus questions?
Good one. Because this is a question that comes pretty often. So models, I'm going to start with models because I'm a pretty huge fan of that. And everyone's in Metabase knows that. Models is a first-class citizen question. That's what model is. In fact, there are really interesting things that are coming into models in the next few versions. Why? Because on its roots, a model is a question. Like, you create a question in order to promote that question as a model. So it's a question, but it's a very, very interesting type of question. You can change the types. You can change metadata on those models. You can grab those models and persist them back into the data warehouse, like if you would be doing a materialized view, right? And there are a few more things that are coming to models that I don't know if I can say that or not here, but think a model like a way in which you would, the same way you would create a view in your data warehouse, right? Like, I can clean data, I can change that data, so my users don't see what it's, what might be maybe odd. A user doesn't want to see a field called P_ something. The user wants to know that that's the field that we save the products, the SKUs or something like that. So think a model as a cleaned version of what it's in the tables. And again, as it's a first-class citizen question, there are a lot of things that we are that we have put together for models to be better. Right now in the product, as I mentioned, persisting back, changing data types, and buildings, and there are really amazing things that will be coming to models in the very near future.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that, like on the theme of self-serve analytics, I tend to think of models as a jumping off point for end users to use to explore data. So I can actually show how that kind of manifests itself in a full app embedding scenario. So if I'm in the kind of demo instance here and I want to offer analytics to customers, we're going to open it up and give them kind of full agency over exploring their data. You can see down here, if I'm scrolling through, I get the couple of dashboards that are most relevant to me. Then I also get this header here, which is useful data. So this is places to start new explorations from. And these are the models in this instance, and they're shown to customers as kind of a jumping off point. And functionally, these work as tables. They have lots of other features around metadata and persistence that Luis talked about. But these are really kind of you defining where your users should start from when they're self-serving analytics. You see a similar thing if you go up here and click new. You want to ask a question that isn't kind of shown to you. The first thing you're going to see here is models, the best starting place for new questions. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to get cleaned up table views of the places where I might want to answer these questions from. And you can jump off and go from there. So that's kind of just tying it back into self-serve and how models can be useful for kind of helping your customers get the answers they want.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks for the extra explanation there. Okay, we've got about 9 minutes, so I'm gonna get a little bit selective about what questions we've got. We've got one here with 2 upvotes. Will you consider adding localization functionalities to allow localization dashboard labels via standard formats like XLIFF?
Connor, wanna take that?
Yeah, and we'll definitely consider it. Like I said, we've recently added features around localization, and it's something that's often a non-starter for customer-facing analytics if they can't read it. So very top of mind. Don't have a clear answer off the top of my head right now.
With the full app embedding, you showed some interactivity. Is that native or something I have to add so that the fields show up and can be changed or edited?
So I was just reading the question, sorry.
Oh.
So this is very important and something that we put in the latest version, which is the interactivity of the charts are only available if those charts were built with GUI questions. This is very important. Many people, because of they need to do something quick, they start writing SQL questions, and then they put those SQL questions into a dashboard, and they realize that, hey, there's no interactivity here. And the reason is that Metabase doesn't know, as Metabase didn't build that SQL, doesn't know how to interact with the base tables. So keep in mind, if you want to see interactivity, if you want to offer your users, drill down, drill through, like everything that we showed, you need to build the queries with GUI questions. And if you cannot do it because there are restrictions, maybe you want to do a very complex SQL, maybe you want to do CTEs, maybe you want to use native functions of the database, consider building a view in your data warehouse, like a view that it will be exposed to Metabase as a new table. So consider that so you can grasp the full potential of Metabase with the GUI builder.
Sweet. If a user signs in with single sign-on, can I still lock the URL parameters using JWT signed URL, for example, or will the logged user be able to access any dashboard they have access via root URL?
Good question. So the first thing is that when I tackle that, Ben, sorry, just went ahead and all right. So first thing first, if a user signs with single sign-on, you can first pass the groups that the user will belong to inside Metabase. It's called group mappings. It's a feature that you can use with single sign-on. That will mean that the user single sign-ons, and automatically Metabase will lock them down to the data permissions and to the collection permissions you configured beforehand, completely automatically. That's one thing. And then regarding the data access or the filters, you can use row-level security, or how we call it, data sandboxing. So that user sees just not only the filter options that just belong to their and their rows, and also the user can see absolutely any filter, and they can play with all the data. But again, just sandboxed to the data that belongs to them via row-level security.
Nice. Is there a way to customize filters? A lot of our models of our platform need to be represented as trees, and we don't want to display the items in the filters as simple lists. You got that one?
I'm reading. Customize filter. Oh, interesting. Filters as trees. I've seen there's a feature request about that, which is called grouping the grouping of the filters. We've been a little, again, kind of speak about the pilot. That's the mastermind here is Connor, but that is something that we have as a feature request in our issue tracker.
Yeah, there are a selection of ways to present filters, whether you want people to be able to type in, whether it's kind of a drop-down list, whether they can select one or multiple. So there's an array of options right now. Unfortunately, trees is not one of them, but it's something that we'll have to look into.
Cool. Maybe kind of related to that, your student list works as long as you do not have more than 2,000 students or widgets. Any chance that limit will change?
So in fact, the Metabase shows only 2,000 rows if it's a display of a table. If you're doing aggregations, the limit is 10,000. So it will show 10,000 items on a chart. That is, I mean, if you need more than 2,000 rows on a table, you want to like see a massive table. Remember that Metabase is an open source product, so you can, if you have a license, you can basically customize Metabase to an extent. Anything that you like to make to the product is entirely up to you.
Awesome. I think we've got time for one last question. Just a reminder about the polls. Check those out and drop in your answer there. And also remember to fill in the data stack survey if you can as well. So for our last question, it seems that GUI-based questions translate in clauses by successive or clauses when, which has a serious impact on performance. So SQL is the only solution in some cases. Any solution for that?
Oof, interesting one. So we use a query processor, as you can imagine, like in every single VF product you have. There are tweaks to performance for the SQL processor in every major version that we release. So there's a feature about that, and I know that we have it pending. And again, I would suggest you to see maybe in the near future if we tackle that specific need about changing that type of how we build a query when you do the filterings.
Awesome. I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Coming up on time here. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Thank you for your really thoughtful questions and insights and taking part in our poll and everything. Thank you to our amazing panelists as well. Keep an eye out in your email for the recording of this session. We'll also send out the slide deck, and keep an eye out for the YouTube link as well if you want to share that around. Until next time, thank you so much.